And we're live. So welcome everybody to the Midlife Retreat. This is a place where you can relax, rejuvenate, be inspired, get to meet some amazing people. So close the door to the outside world, put your feet up, get yourself your nice cup of coffee or your drink, whatever you're doing. And to start with, Engel, we always have a nice 2 deep breaths in. So would you like to join me in that? And then I can introduce you. So nice deep breath in. And out. And another one. And out. That just gets us in the mood for a really good, nice retreat. So let me introduce my guest all the way from, I believe, Trinidad and Tobago. Is that correct?
Yes, you are very correct.
Engel Jones. And did I say that right?
You did.
I did. So this is Engel Jones. He was born and raised on the Twin Islands of Trinidad and Tobago, and he loves great conversation. He's an entrepreneur, a life coach, and the podcast host for the 12-minute combos. His passion is to help you find your own unique, real self, which I'm sure he's going to tell us about in a little while. After having 1,001 conversations in 3 months, he uncovered yours, which is your own unique, real self. It's a tool to be used to reconnect you to the hidden passions and purposes, which is essential for you to create your own brand. Engel believes and lives the principle of Zig Ziglar, where you can have everything in life if you help others enough to get what they want. So welcome to the show, Engel. Are you still with me? I've lost your picture, but I think I can hear you in the background there.
Interesting. Yeah, I was wondering why my picture is frozen, but yeah, I'm definitely here. Wow, I probably clicked something wrong.
No, I would think it's probably because I'm here in East Africa at the minute and the internet connection's not so strong today. Don't worry, when we come to have the replay, we'll both be there. So everybody will be able to see your face and enjoying the conversation.
Oh, this is wonderful.
I've got lots and lots of questions for you. And my first question is, tell us a little bit about growing up in Trinidad and Tobago.
And Tobago, the beautiful island. It's amazing. I've had the opportunity to live here all my life. It's a small island. I grew up in a village called Whiteland. And in Whiteland, it's pretty amazing. It's quiet. Everyone knows everyone. The beach is about, and everyone asks this question, like, do you open your door and see the beach, right? No, I do not. Unlike Kay. So the last time we spoke, I called you Pat. Now I'm calling you Mary. But yeah, most definitely the beach is about 1 hour away, and the food is amazing in Trinidad. Everything is amazing with the food. Like, I could make you hungry by talking about the food.
Yeah, the pictures you've put up, it looks an absolutely stunning place and definitely a place to visit. So I'm going to put it on my bucket list and I'm definitely going to come over and see you at some point. Yeah, it'd be really, really good. So yes. When did you first realize that you love having a conversation?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, that's a great question. I never really, wow. Usually I ask the hard questions. The conferences, attending conferences really brought that out in terms of being fascinated by who I met there, understanding that the time is limited. So the questions I need to ask need to be questions that are clear, concise, and at the same time, questions that give me the opportunity for insight as well as them so that I can be remembered. It's important to be remembered, right? If I'm in an American conference, an international conference, well, then I have the value of being Trinidadian, right? I mean, how many Trinidadians do you know, right? But if we're all the same, then it's really challenging to remember someone, even if we're in international. So I really found the joy of having conversations, I believe, talking with myself. Like, I worked in a lab by myself. And so we were shift workers that time. And you're speaking about working 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. in this room, right? And I think there's where my conversations with myself and with God started. Yeah.
What fascinates me listening to you talk as well, you have such a wonderful voice, and yet you prefer to interview people. And I suppose part of that is having this conversation is to find and draw out of other people the things that you can find out about them.
Yeah, thank you for commenting on my voice. Yeah, it's all about the person I'm speaking to and hearing their voice, their inner voice, which is an even more beautiful sound than the vibrations of my voice. And that fascinates me.
And so is that where the fascination and your dream about your convos? Tell us about your 12-minute convos, where that came from.
Sure. I was part of a mastermind group led by Aaron Walker. And he created this virtual room, if you would, this virtual space where men would meet, and he coached us, right? And in that group, it grew to about 100 and something people, and it was a Facebook group. And I thought to myself it was necessary to have more conversations. So I created this tool together with an amazing guy called Nico Mellet, and in Australia. And Nico is an Excel king. So we created this tool. You used it, right?
Yeah.
And in that tool, we started having conversations. So I did the maths. I love Excel. Not as much as Nico, but I love it, right? And in that, we started having conversations with each other. And I did that for 12 minutes because the maths said, if I did 12, I would be able to do 100 in X amount of time. So I started there. And then again, Zig Ziglar speaks about helping others, right? Get what they want. So my wife, Amanda, who is an author, she was just about completed with Poems for You and Your Neighbor, Health Disorder Simplified. And being the entrepreneur that I am and connecting with podcasts, I was like, you need to do a podcast, Amanda. You should do a podcast. And if you do a podcast, there's so many people you can reach. And we started that. And she started doing interviews with doctors and relating it to her poems. So we're doing that. And I believe one day I said, I think I want to do a podcast. And it was like, okay, what is your podcast going to be called? And I said, 12-minute conversations, right? And I needed to get the questions. I remember going into my first son's bedroom and with my yellow pad, the trusty yellow pad, right? And I sat there, and then I came out and I said, I got it. And those questions were born, those questions that I've asked uh, now over 1,100 times
Wow.
to so many different amazing people all over the world.
And it was Pat who introduced me to you. I don't know how Pat found you, probably through one of her contacts. That's how it works.
Yes.
This amazing sort of spider's web that's created around the web. And I loved your questions. I thought they were really good. They were simple, and yet they had meaning. I remember you asked us all about a song that we loved when we were, was it 11 years of age?
Everybody loves Kung Fu Fight.
You see, you remember that one.
Yes, that was Kia's favorite.
Yeah, but out of 1,100 conversations, that's a pretty good memory you've got.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's okay.
So tell us about some of those amazing conversations you had. I call it light bulb and goosepimple moments. You know, when your skin goes all like, we call it piel de gallina in Spanish, where it goes looking like a chicken skin. Yeah. So tell us about some of those amazing conversations you had.
Yeah, I think the one time that really trumps all, well, okay, I'll give two. So one is, can I give two?
You can give as many as you like. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The one time that sticks out that came up first in my mind was the night I spoke to two people. I was doing 30 conversations average a night, a day, right?
Oh.
So, hi, dog. Yes, we're hearing you. Yes, good afternoon.
Yeah, we have three here on the site,
Oh,
and obviously
sweet.
somebody's just come to the gate and they're making so much noise. So I apologize.
Oh, you shouldn't apologize. They're not apologizing. It seems as though they're saying hi.
They're doing their job.
So I found this young guy, Nick Snappin. He's this amazing guy that has he has productivity on purpose, I believe. I hope I'm not killing your name, but it's Pop. And he does this thing where he gets entrepreneurs and other individuals going. So anyway, I got him on the podcast, and I think something happened and we missed the time. So we rerouted times. I got him to fit into a gap, and then we had the conversation. And I asked him what was his earliest childhood memory. He told me that I remember running around a pool. I said, "Okay, you're running around a pool. Okay, okay." So I'm like, "Well, nothing, crickets, right?" And he says, "Oh, wait, but I remember falling into that pool one time,
Oh,
and I was under there. I think they said for like 7 minutes."
oh,
And my neighbor luckily saw my body floating, and fished me out, and they performed CPR, and in so doing, I lived. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then I said, okay, let me go take a quick nap because it's about 9:30 p.m. and I have a 10 p.m. So I'll go take a nap and get up. So I go take the nap and I oversleep. My wife wakes me up. Don't you have a podcast? I'm like, yeah, I always have a podcast right now. Oh, I'm joking. So I get up, fly to the office where the podcast cubicle is set up, and I'm in there now, and I connect with another young lady, right? So I ask her. We reached what is your earliest childhood memory, and she says, well, I remember falling into a pool and I was under there for like 7 minutes, 7 to 8 minutes. And while under there, I saw angels, and it felt as though they 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 pushed me up. It's like, what is going on here? It's those pimples, right?
yeah,
Those good
yeah,
pimples that pop up.
yeah.
What is going on here? I said, do you know Nicholas Snap? Of course, she's in another part of the state, and he's in another part. Are you guys setting this up? And of course, she's like, excuse me. So that was one of those moments. Um, I set out to do this being competitive, yes, one, but also looking and searching. And as you speak so highly of listening, and
Mm.
there's really great value in listening that I've learned because I was always buzz passed by so quickly. Yeah, I'm the buzz guy, bzzz, so I've learned to listen and the value of it. And the second thing that occurred is the guy that I set out to beat in episode counts. Again, folks, I'm very competitive. Is John Lee Dumas. He has a podcast called Entrepreneur on Fire, and I learned so much, so many things from him. But I wanted to have the experience that he had, right? And I said if I could fast track having those conversations, then I could then be that person in terms of the skill level, the skill set. And so I love the idea of cheating into success. And I think, again, when I say this, I have to put the disclaimer: children, don't cheat your exams. No, it's not what I mean. There's so many opportunities to have insight into things that we could not have insight. So I'm speaking to Key, right? So I have the opportunity to connect with Key. It's a cheat that we now are able to really take advantage of. So anyway, I finally I attempted to connect with John Lee Dumas and didn't get through. The guy is busy, of course, right? He is a very successful entrepreneur through podcasting. And I'm having a conversation with a guy, and he said, "You know what? You remind me of a guy called John Lee Dumas. When he just started off, he contacted me and told me, "Hey, come jump on my podcast." And I went there. And he's very successful now. Do you know John Lee Dumas? Yes, I know John Lee Dumas. Of course, I know John Lee Dumas. He said, "You know what? Would you like to? I think he'll be great on your show. Would you like me to connect him?" Yes, thank you very much. I would love that. And he connected the conversation. And I remember having that conversation, and I'm like, I think he's around 10 something, right? So I've had a few conversations and I'm up to him now. And I'm nervous. Of course, he's fitted in between someone, right? So it's not like I have a big gap, and it's not as though he has a big gap as well. So he jumps on the podcast, and my interpretation of the thought picture thing, and that's all in the spur of the moment. It's like right there and then. So he gives an example of his earliest childhood memory, he gives the thought picture, and I connect it, and he's like, wow. And I think right there, everything became relaxed, and those pimples, just those, they popped up, that this guy, not being idolized, but just being mentorized, if I'll create that word. Yeah, that having your mentor virtually connect with you, and the possibilities that can occur from setting a goal and being disciplined and consistent, sometimes indisciplined, but being consistent, going after it.
I think there's so many points I want to pick up on that, on what you've just said in the last 5 minutes, and I don't know where really to start. But let's start with the thing that you just finished on. I decided to start this midlife retreat this year, and again, it was because I wanted to have the experience of building my own self-esteem to learn the technical side of a platform. Realizing that actually it's not as difficult as it used to be. You only need to do is learn the system and press a few buttons, and then to connect with other people around the world. And for me, it's been definitely a goosepimple thing. But tell us a little bit about your goals and goal setting, and why you feel that's important to you.
Yeah, memory for one. There's so many things going on. Having it in front of me definitely helps, as well as calmness. It helps having and knowing you have a plan on paper. That way, you don't need to always remember it. The guys that I've worked with, I tell them, one guy, he said recently, he remembered something, and it was something to the point of one of the guys that he's working with did something to him that he felt unjust about, right? And I said, I attempt to live in today's. I forget yesterday's, because it helps me to forgive, right? So that's one thing as well. Goal setting and the process of goal setting gives you the grand opportunity to forget. So you set the goal, and then you forget that you need to keep this in your mind, because it's there. So then you get to live in the future of what it took to set that goal. So it's like you could put that there and then leave it there and then go do the work, right? So I love doing the work. And so many times we can do work in vain and not accomplish our goal. So having the goal helps me to then do the work that is directly connected to what I indicated is my happiness, or what could be my happiness. So getting to 1,509 conversations, that was the goal. My happiness, though, was the interactions. Like that was the work. So I set the goal, and then I shelved it. Like it's there, but it's shelved, and then I go do the work, and I had fun. I have fun doing it all through the process. Our goals are built, my wife and I, when I say our, on mental, spiritual, career, physical, financial, personal, and family. So we attempt, and it is a challenge, but we do attempt to keep balanced in those formats. And so far, it's been pretty awesome. The effects or the results of setting goals via that medium. Again, something from Zig Ziglar that we've used. You could get that anywhere. Born to Win, Wheel of Life. Yeah, PDF. Yeah.
So, do you ever go back and look at your first podcast just to see how far you've come?
Yes, I did that probably twice over the last 3 months. And while it is a very challenging to listen to myself, listening to myself way back then is even more challenging. Yeah, definitely come a far way. One of the guys I first podcast with was in that ISI, my mastermind group, right? And sorry, it was the View from the Top group. And my friend, I said, I need to have a podcast with this guy again, just to give it justice, just to give him justice, because I'm there butchering the conversation. Just being dry. What is your earliest childhood memory? That's it. So yeah, I do it time to time.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think it's important to go back as well. It's part of the goal setting, I think, is you go forward and then you can review how far you've come.
Yeah.
So congratulations. Tell us a little bit what happened after you, because you set this 12-minute conversations, if I understand correctly, to be a Guinness world record.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how that unfolded and what you learned from that.
Sure. So I set the goal like around January to have these conversations, and I love stories because you have the opportunity to hear how nice it wasn't, right? So, and then you could hopefully get out there and go get your goals too, right? So I set the goal and I launched the podcast on March 31st, 2016, or 2017, 2016. 2017. Okay. March 31st, 2017. And there I am. And I have 3 podcasts, just like they suggest, because when you launch that, then people see it and they get 3 podcasts. So it helps your count. And I'm there. And then I'm struggling to get guests. Right. So it's now August. And I attended Coaching with Excellence in Tennessee by Dan Miller. So I'm there in Tennessee, and his daughter Ashley Logsden is teaching about the DISC profile, right, which is personality assessments, right, metrics, and she is there teaching about that, and it's like a lightning bolt just struck. The sound, Engel, you need to complete the goal you set. It's like, okay. So again, the trusty yellow pad is there. And I start writing, calculating what would be required to do this in 3 months. And, I said, okay, I had, I 76, right? I had 76 episodes at that time, right? So I was just about to release the 76th. And I said, okay, so I'm there, I'm doing the calculations key. And I said, there's this guy sitting next to me, right? He works with the team there, Dan Miller's. Sorry, I don't remember your name, my friend, but he's there. And I tell him, I'm going to have 1,509 conversations in 3 months, right? And he looks at me and says, okay, then.
Wow.
And I came back to Trinidad, and it was September 4th, right? So it's Monday, September 4th, I believe. And I had this conversation booked with one of the guys that is like, he's side and side with Aaron Walker. His name is Tom Schwab. So Tom Schwab wanted to speak to me about Interview Valley. So I'm there having the conversation with him, and I tell him at the end of it, hey, I'm going for this podcast goal. I want to have 1,509 conversations in 3 months. I already have 76, but I'll start the counter from 0, right? And he says, hey, Engel, that sounds like fun, right? You should make that a Guinness World Record. I was like, okay, how do you do that? Because interestingly enough, he is going for a Guinness World Record, right? For being on the most podcasts. So I was like, I was like, okay, well, cool. How do you do that? And he explains that, the process in terms of going through Guinness World Record, and it takes, I think it took 12 weeks, and I'm all into 12, right? 12 is like my signature number. So I'm like, okay, so it's $5 for 12 weeks or $1,000 to get an answer immediately. Guess which I chose? $5, right?
Answer me.
I did that. And while I'm doing the podcast, I'm waiting for these 12 weeks to get the for what I thought was the confirmation for the Guinness World Record. After the 12 weeks, they actually said that the podcast is not a quantifiable entity, right? And that they would not be able to honor it. Wow, that day felt, I was, even though it wasn't the motivation, I think the competitive side of me was fighting with the understanding there's value. So there's the competitive side, and then there's value. And I remember feeling pretty down, and I posted the letter in the Facebook group. Wow, an Aki. There were the people in there were like, hey, tell us where you want us to go to protest, right? For this. Like, do we need to contact Guinness for you? But truly, in silence and just thinking about it, that was never the purpose of this. Guinness World Record was never the motivation. So I put my head down and I started going and continued going. And I never looked back at that. I'll tell you a secret, Kia. I'm thinking about doing a 12-hour stretch for podcast day, right? And
Wow.
yeah, the motivation, I'm like, okay, I could apply to this board, but it's just like, hey, they'll catch up at some time, right? I'm doing what I'm doing for the sheer pleasure and the value that can come from sharing other stories, so that other people could be motivated to hopefully just get going, get it done. Life is so short, get out there and fulfill your purpose, your own unique real self.
And that was the fascinating thing for me. I remember you posting that on the Facebook group and coming virtually straight back and saying, you know what, I'm still going to go for it. It's by the by, it's not important.
Yes.
And then not so long after that, you then created your own unique real self. So tell us a little bit about that, because I think that's absolutely brilliant.
Sure, thank you. One of the things that occurred is so many people were telling me to write a book of your experiences. So many people would want to get that, and we were trying. I was doing. I fleshed out the chapters, and Amanda is there helping make my words readable, right? And we're there on the couch, and I felt the struggle, right? It's a struggle, and I thought to myself, okay, I honestly thought to myself, Johnny Dumas has this huge audience, and what does he do? He doesn't create a book about himself. He creates something for people to use. I was like, wow, these questions have had a 99.9% great review. How about I dive deeper into the questions and create something that could help someone that doesn't, because I spoke to a lot of introverts and I realized that, they're not coming onto this podcast, right? It's a challenge for them to do that, to do this that we're doing here. However, while it isn't impossible, if probably they had a connection with themselves by doing this, right? And if they could go through this in their quiet time, in their silent space, then possibly they would make the next step. So we sat down, Amanda and I, and my amazing designer, Arbridge Dilipi, and we really started fleshing out how this would look like. And I'll show you something. It's like I'll show you the quickest thing I think that you like inside here, my friend.
You'll have to tell me because I can't see the picture.
Oh my, it's
I've lost your picture, but you can describe it.
Sure, it's a picture of the Caribbean Sea right before I ask the question, my earliest childhood memory. And in there, so there's a picture on one side and then the questions to really invoke the thought process of diving deeper into your own unique real self. So it's been great. Like I usually promote my wife's books, right? And brought in 20 of these to Trinidad because it's on Amazon. So I brought 20 to Trinidad and I said, I'll give these to the chosen few, right? In my inner circle. And the reaction, I was blown away. Like I was honestly blown away by the reaction. Some people said, hey, like one guy, I showed it. He said, those questions are too deep. I do not know the answers, and I'm just about 60 years old. And that was sad at some point, Kay, that person didn't know that, but it's the truth, right? So this book is created for that, because I believe in this melee of what is happening in the virtual world, where people are carbon copying things, that there is a great value in your own unique real self. And if you would dive deeper to really identify things like your earliest childhood memory and your favorite song, the things that connected your skills, your talents, then you can exist in that. And it's not painful, it's not challenging, it doesn't take away energy to do that. I did those conversations and I was energized, folks. That was not tiring for me because it was definitely connected to my own unique real self.
And I think for the people being interviewed as well, I mean, I definitely had that feeling when I came off the conversation, even though it was only 12 minutes long. I felt energized and well listened to and very unique and special. So I love the book. And what I want to ask now is, are you going to do some sort of workshops, whether they're online or to promote this wonderful piece of work that you have?
Yes, that's a great question. Thank you though for telling me about how energized you felt. But yeah, we've created, so Kia, you were part of the initial group, right? And I really want to commend and let people know that Kia walks the talk, right? She was in there because she loved the idea of conversations, right? So I learn. One of the things I've learned as well is you do things as challenging as it may not be perfect. You do things and then you course correct. Yes, for those perfectionists, it is challenging, but it helps when you do things to see it in real time. So now, my friend, we've actually created the Yours accountability groups. And right now, as we speak, there are 5 groups, right? And they run anywhere from 3 to 7 people, me being the facilitator and my wife as well in that other group she's running, right? And we're using this as the material, and it's been fabulous because, like, I'll tell you quickly, one of the things in there is awards, right? From 1 to 9, 10 to 17, 18 to 24, 25 to 50, and 50 plus, right? And there's a quote next to it: to be a champion, you have to believe when no one else will. Sugar Ray Robinson said that. So we're going through those questions here, and people are identifying awards, and people are amazing. The people in the groups are amazing. Like, they've done some amazing things. It's like, how come this never came out in your story? When I go to your website, I don't see this, right? And when I read about you, I don't see this. Your bio doesn't have this. But what was intriguing about that session when we do that particular part is that other people, I said, hey, when I was doing the podcast, I would ask Amanda, hey, I'll press pause, right? And said to Amanda, what is your interpretation of this thought picture? And she would sometimes say the exact thing that I would have said. So in the group, I asked other individuals, what is your interpretation of John's, using John as an example name, John's thought picture that they just painted from 1 to 9 or 1 to 50, right? And they would start speaking into the other person's life as to what they can do. Or, yeah, it's clear you should be doing something that is along that. And those are the types of amazing things that have begun to occur through the Yours workbook, which is the accountability groups. I'm loving speaking with you, Kay. Ooh, I'm loving it.
If anybody wants to join one of those groups, just can you put into the chat just where I can get hold of you, and just either an email or the group link itself, or any way that they can get hold of you.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Anybody picking up this recording, if they've also got goosepimples like I have, they know where to find you. So,
right. I think you cut out for a short bit, but I'm
you've
hearing
done
you
it.
now. Yep.
Wonderful. Hope at 12minutecombos.com.
There we go. So Kay cut out for a short bit. She did say that there is a possibility that this would occur because of her electricity in Zanzibar that keeps going in and out. So she asked me to continue if this occurred, and that is what I'll do. So before I leave, in closing, I would say thank you so much, Kay, for this amazing session. Thanks for asking questions that really brought value to me, and I hope in so doing to others. And I thank you so much for you taking the time to connect with this island guy to have a 12-minute convo, because truly it's the power of a conversation that got this going. I'm seeing that she's saying, I'm coming back, the line has dropped. So I guess my ending should not be my ending. This is fun. I guess this is a true test of how are you by your own unique real self. My Facebook page. Sure. Let me put my Facebook page in here as well. And here we go. Come on, Kia, you were doing an amazing job.
I'm back, I'm sorry.
Welcome.
I don't know if you heard my last question. I just wanted to ask you what time it was in Trinidad and Tobago.
It is currently 5:12 a.m. 5:30 a.m. Yeah.
So my next question is, when do you ever sleep?
Oh yeah, I do sleep, Kay. I do sleep. During the podcast time, I didn't sleep that much, though. But yeah, it's what I do. I do spouts, sometimes 12-week spouts of going a bit more than I would go, and then resting a lot more. So it gives me space to be creative, to draw on the creative juices, and then I get down and do the work. The work is so important. Doing the work is so important, folks. Our millennials, please hear me, and even 50 and overs. Yeah, the work, the work is so important, getting the work done.
I love that concept. You know, I think most people have the thought process that you need to work from 9 to 5 to get your work done. I like the idea that you do yours in blocks and you just work when you need to work. Hence we're here at this time in the morning. And thank you so much for being up early to do this broadcast. We're nearly coming to the end. I don't know if there's anything you want to add. I'd like you to just tell the audience, people are going to be picking up this replay during the week. So tell them a little bit about Amanda, because she's also an amazing person and she does some absolutely awesome work. So tell everybody a little bit about your wonderful wife. It
is challenging to say a little bit about this beautiful young woman. I can summarize and say that like go get all of her books, because if you do trust this island boy's life, you'd understand that that what I'm saying is true, in that Amanda cares for people. She is a nurse by profession, and her heart strings are tied to ensuring that it's easy to understand these complicated things. So I think being cross between what is country life and what is the educated life, I think she saw the value in simplifying things. And interestingly enough, she chose rhymes, poems to do that. So she simplifies diabetes through rhymes. Of course, she uses things like nutrition and expresses that, and signs and symptoms, and does it the way the classic medical book would do it, but it's simple. And I knew it worked because it worked for me, right? Like I'm the guy that knows and has heard of diabetes, but when you go into the deeper questions, I get lost. But the rhymes, oh my, they helped me. And that's what she does. She simplifies. Her entire thing is the proficient nurse writer, and her thing is to educate, encourage, and empower. It's like her passion. So everything she puts out, you could go get it, understanding that this is going to bring value in some creative, beautiful way. So she has poems for you and your neighbor. Health disorders simplify. Flight. Poems for you and your neighbor. Health disorders slip. Ooh, it's probably the morning, right? So let's go on one time. Poems for you and your neighbor. Health disorders simplified. She has poems for patients. They focus on diabetes. The ABCs of diabetes for children. There's a YouTube video you could find with that, right, for children as well. And now she's just completed children. It's time to meet your teeth. I think this is my favorite, but she is amazing. As a wife, could you imagine the support I needed? Right, having all of those conversations. You asked a great question, right? She is the support, folks. It's really how I did it. Like she would bring the water for this voice, right? In between those conversations. My nutrition, she took care of. She got me to take the naps I needed to take. And truly, she is the proficient nurse writer. And I love her tremendously.
I think the both of you make an absolutely awesome team, and I'm so happy that we managed to get you here onto the midlife retreat and talk about 12-minute convos, and of course about Amanda as well. I want to ask you some just general questions just to wind down a little bit about like your questions you asked on 12-minute convos, but to do with going on a retreat. And you can just give me one-word answers, and if you can, that is. You might find it difficult. Number one question, what's the one thing that stresses you about going on holidays?
Overthinking.
Okay. And what's the one thing you always take on holiday?
My laptop.
Oh. And what's the one thing you wish you'd left behind?
My laptop.
I was hoping you was going to say that one. What's the one thing that you need to ditch right now, which is either mental or physical?
I wish I could ditch sciatica nerves.
Okay, sciatica nerves, wow. And what's the one thing you love to do, which is sensibly selfish? Sensibly selfish means putting yourself first.
I'd say silent time.
Okay. And what's the worst advice you've ever been given so far about your life?
That because you have a family, you do not, or you will not be able to accomplish XYZ. It's a lie.
It certainly is. Engel, thank you for being with us. And we've got in the chat your 2 contact details, hope@12minuteconvos.com, or we can find you on Facebook at Engel Jones 12. I love that you're a person of number 12. You're not my 12th Crowdcast retreat, unfortunately. You're number 34. But it's been wonderful to have you with us, and I hope we keep in touch. And thank you so much for your time. I'm going to end the broadcast now.
Hey, and before you go,
tell me.
3 by 4 is 12, right?
Well, there you are, you say.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you for being with us. And next week, I'm going to be talking to another lady. I haven't met her yet. I haven't spoken to her. I don't know what she wants to talk about. It's going to be my final broadcast before I go walking the Camino de Santiago. I'm going to be away for 6 weeks while I trudge 800 kilometers from one side of Spain to the other. So that's going to be an interesting conversation, Engel, we can have when I come back.
I welcome that. I look forward to that. I'll hold you to that. Wow. All the best. All the best.
Thank you very much. Take care, and thank you for being with us today. Bye, everybody.
It does.